8 miles northwest of modern-day Kabbalah, what used to be the port city of Neapolis. You have the ancient Egnatia Road, 550 miles all the way from the far west of the Macedonia, all the way here to where modern-day Istanbul is today. Now, why is this important? When you read in the book of Acts, chapter 17, verse 1, I want to pay attention to certain details as you look at the road, which was still in use into the late 1900s, early 20th century. And it says, now after they traveled through Amphipolis and Apollonia, they came to Thessalonica. It's interesting because he disembarked in Kabbalah, modern-day Kabbalah, Neapolis. He came up northwest to Philippi. From there he went west. They used this road. Now, the Roman mile is 1.5 kilometers, and they have markers along the way. But when you see in the text it says, and they traveled, you have to ask the question, how did they travel? What method of travel they use? And also, will they be protected? Like even today, we have the highway right above this particular ancient street. This was the first road that the Romans built outside of Rome. It was pivotal for their conquest. One of the most important access to all of the ancient world. They needed to come through here. So how do they work it? It's called mansiones, rest places. You know, rest areas, nothing new. It actually comes from the ancient Romans and the particular, the way they did the roads for resting. Let me read some information to you about this. At the time of Augustus, resting places equipped with services for travelers, the mansiones is called, the mansions, were established along the routes. They were located along the main roads at a day's journey. A day's journey is about 20 miles, 21 miles is how long it will take the army to walk daily, 20 miles for a day. Allowing travelers to stop and stay overnight. A traveler on foot covered 20 miles a day, about 32 kilometers. A relay of government couriers on horseback could cover up to 50 miles, about 80 kilometers. Between the two mansions, it's like two hotels or two resting areas. In Florida, you see it all the time. You go on the highway, you see rest areas, as we did and we saw that in Turkey. Between the two rest areas, there were several matusiones, stations for changing horses, mules, and oxen. Here you could also use the services of grooms, farriers, and medical equipment. Veterinarians, they were specialized in the care of horses, workshops, and they had everything you needed in order for you to stay there. If you were a dignitary and officials, high military rank, ambassadors, and public officials, they had one that was suited for you. So if you were lower caste, you stay in a separate room. If you were of a higher caste, you stay in a higher end type room, okay? So as you can see, history tells us, and it lines up perfectly with the narrative in the New Testament. So we see that everything Paul went through, as he went through from Neapolis, modern-day Kabbalah, Philippi, all the way to Berea, he used this type road that linked everything together. And this was a successful road, highly coveted by ancient kingdoms. If you have dominion of his road, you have dominion over the kingdom. By the way, if you were a Roman citizen, you can walk freely without any hesitation because you have the protection of the Roman Empire and the emperor. That's why Roman citizens can have free access and no one will mess with you because you were part of the Roman kingdom, and there was the Pax Romana. So keep that in mind when you read the text in context of history and geography. A very important event occurred here in the modern-day city of Kabbalah, in the biblical city of Neapolis. In the history of the Greco-Roman world, there was a fight between Mark Antony, Augustus, and Brutus and Cassius. The kingdom of Rome, the empire, was in civil war, and they met about 10 miles northwest in Philippi. And this was the port that the fleet that was supporting Brutus and Cassius came into. Is the same place where Paul, one point, came in to disembark and go on his second trip, ministry trip, to Philippi and also Amphipolis and then Thessaloniki. And therefore we know that this was a very important port to have access into Europe, back in the time of the 1st century. So I highly recommend for people to consider looking into the historical accounts and start making the connections between the modern day names and biblical names. You're going to learn a lot. And this is one example of that.